the untold story of how I was able to go from a poor third world country like Dominican Republic, where I was dead broke, had no results, had no idea where my life was being headed, to building a massive $1 million or like more than $1 million business in a very short amount of time, completely online, not paying for a single ad, using just Instagram, and on top of that, how I was able to do it while also building a really huge audience that right now has over 6 million followers across multiple niches, languages, and industries. In this episode of the podcast, I dive deep down and tell the untold story of how I was able to go my entire journey up until the point that I am today, and how you can take my mistakes, my pitfalls, and benefit from them so you do not make the same things I did that were wrong, and that you actually implement and model the things that were right so that you go ahead and also have success for yourself. What is up, family? Welcome to another episode of Success Tank. My name is Josué Peña, your host, and today I want to talk about my story and my entire journey, basically, and how I went and built $1 million business in a very short amount of time. My entire journey, my mistakes, the pitfalls, what I learned, and also the successes, obviously, so that you can also go ahead and implement it for yourself. This is probably one of those things that people have asked me to do a lot, and I've never really shared in a full, complete episode or segment or piece of content the entire story, and it's because there's a lot of nuances and things like that, and also probably because I didn't want to share it completely in just one piece, because it's honestly like it's a very tough and sensible thing for me to just completely share everything. So that's what we're gonna do here today. So let's just dive into it. For me, it all started, the whole quote-unquote entrepreneurship, back, I think, when I was like 15, right? So a little bit background story about myself. Was born and raised in Dominican Republic. Right now I am 26. I lived in Dominican Republic until I was 21, 22. I absolutely love my country more than anybody else. But the reality is that it is a poor third world country, right? Sometimes I will go in the shower, I will shower, and then light will run out, and then I'll have to go out like with no light, right? Sometimes I will shower and the water will run out, and I had shampoo in my hair or soap, and I will have to, dry myself out with a towel and take the shampoo or just the soap off like that. So that's where I come from. I was considered, quote unquote, my parents were not wealthy over there. My dad was actually the first person to ever go to college over there, and he graduated with student debt, all that stuff, right? Not nearly what it is today, quote unquote, in America, in the United States, right? But he was the first one to go to college, and my parents come from humble beginnings. My grandparents even humbler, if that's even a word, I think, humbler than that, or more humble than that. And as you can see, obviously, English is not my first language, so that's where I come from, right? Those are my parents, and that's where I come from. And like, obviously, my dad grew a lot. He worked his ass off, and eventually we were considered, and we grew into what's called middle class, right? So over there, we were not wealthy, but we were provided. Nothing was, food. There was food on the table, shelter, and clothes. Like, that was the basics, and that's what we had. And I was super, super grateful for that. I love my parents more than anything. That's why one of my motivations today is to actually retire them, and that's why I work and put in 15 hours a day. Anyway, so going back to my story, that was where I come from. That's my, my country, all that stuff. And the first time, I actually, looking back now, that I had experience selling something was almost by mistake and by necessity. So for me, my dad told me when I was, 14, whatever, 13, something like 15. I can't remember the dates. But he basically told me I cannot work, right? Because I'm a minor. And he didn't want me to work. He wanted me to focus on studies. But also, they didn't really give me any money. Like some parents do, they give their sons and their daughters money to, go to school, have lunch, and like buy some stuff, go to the movies or whatever, right? I didn't have that. Like, my parents just didn't give me money. Like there was obviously not enough money probably to go around. So they didn't really give me anything. They just provided me with what's necessary. And if I wanted something, they thought about it and blah, blah, blah. And like they gave it for maybe my birthday or Christmas. But there wasn't like really just like, hey, I want this shoes. And like, obviously I will get the shoes. Not, it wasn't anything like that. So basically my dad told me, look, you have to work, like you have to earn it, right? So I'm like, all right, how do I earn it if I cannot work? If I don't like, I'm not making any money, so I can't even save up. So what I did was go to my closet and find the things that I didn't need or that I wasn't using. And then I will go to a website called mercadolibre.com, which is the equivalent to eBay or maybe Craigslist, right? I will take pictures with my little crappy, I think it was Kodak camera that my dad had. And then I will post it there, right? So that was my first quote unquote online marketing, online business experience. And that's how I started making a little bit of money. And it was, my dad obviously supported it. Thankfully supported, not obviously, thankfully supported it. And when I was sold something, like say, for example, I remember selling, let's say, an uncle from that lived in the United States will send boxes of stuff. And then I will use the things in the box for like a year, and then the next year I will sell it. So for example, PS2, he will send gave me a PS2, used it for 1-2 years or whatever. And then when I needed the money, I just sold the PS2. So I posted it in Mercado Libre and then I sold it. But obviously I will have to go in person. So obviously my dad went with me to actually sell it. So I don't get mugged or robbed or something like that, right? So that was my quote unquote my first experience selling stuff online, if you want to call it that. And looking back now, like it definitely taught me some stuff. First of all, it taught me that things in this world are not free. Like nobody just gives you money. You have to earn it. Whether you're a kid or big, small, like it doesn't matter. You have to earn it. The second thing is that it opened my eyes to the opportunity that there was online, right? There was like, I would just take a picture, think about it, as a 13, 15, 14-year-old, as a kid, I would just take a picture, post it online, and magically somebody will contact me that they wanted to buy it, and I will make money off of it, right? So I'm like, this is like magic, right? Because I'm not having to have a physical store to actually sell some stuff, which is freaking awesome, right? So that was my train of thought. But I didn't really do anything with it. Back then, my main passion, even to this day, right, is soccer. So I started this entire social media marketing, whatever you want to call it, because I wanted to become a professional soccer player. That was my goal. That was my dream and my passion, right? So my train of thought was, I'm going to use social media to build my audience, build an online presence, and then because I have this audience, I'm going to use it as leverage to get in front of a team and a coach and get a contract signed. That was my train of thought, right? And that was in 2011, 2012 when I started doing that, right? So, after I started selling some stuff, obviously I was training, broke my ankle, my left ankle, right? And that was when I was 15. And that was probably one of the toughest moments in my life because when I broke it on both sides. My foot went all the way back. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because it has a lesson for you who's trying to build a business, right? And it taught me a really, really valuable lesson that even to this day I use and apply. So I broke my ankle, and it was just horrible. It was the most painful thing I've ever felt in my life. And then when I started healing, apparently the healing process wasn't done right. And I remember one of the doctors that, we went back several months after, quote unquote, it was fixed. And he said, well, it's not fixed right. We have to go into surgery. We have to break it again and then put a cast again, put, metals through it. And there's a high possibility that you will never be able to run again. When he said that, I remember just like completely breaking down. And it was like, think about it. Like, you're a kid. It is your dream to become a professional soccer player. Everybody's making fun of you because soccer is not even the national sport. Everybody's like trying to oh, you're not going to make it, blah, blah, blah. You know how it goes. And then this doctor tells me that I'm not going to be able to run again. So it was a very tough moment. Thankfully, I healed right. I didn't need surgery. Just went to therapy and eventually it healed right. It took a long time though. And that thing right there taught me that if you want something bad enough, you have to be willing to risk it all and have to be willing to not listen. And what I mean not listen is not listen to good advice, but not listen to people. And like it's a weird thing that you gotta differentiate one thing versus the other, because man, if I would have listened, like even to my parents and my friends and family, I wouldn't be here where I am today at all. Right? Not even the soccer thing, just in the business world, which is something completely different that we're going to talk about here. But it's one of those things, man, that just you just have to not listen and just keep pushing. So that was that. In 2000, that was when I was 15, right? A few years passed and I broke the other ankle, which is even better, right? Like, but I already went through the first, injury, and I knew what it was. And obviously, throughout the years, I had more injuries like that, and those are major ones, right? So the right ankle, I broke it, and since I went through it before, I knew what it took. So that one was a lot easier. Still, like family were like, "Oh, you're injured, blah blah. Like leave that alone. Like you're going through pain. Why are you doing this to yourself, etc. etc. Get a job, all that stuff, right?" And I was in college at the time when I broke my right ankle. And at the time, I started studying electromechanical engineer, more concentrated on electrical engineering, and that's what I am today, right? I have a degree in electrical engineer and I also have a master's degree. But going back then, I also started dating. I was in a relationship, and I remember that when I started doing this social media thing, I was like, they were supportive, like things like that, but then my time started getting limited, and then I was put in a very tough spot where it was either the relationship I was building or my dream. And it looks, obviously I didn't need to say which one I chose, but that's basically how it went. And then from there, things, it was tough, right? I was alone, like I was building this thing alone, and I've been, if you want to call it that, alone most of the time in my life because I'm a lone child. I've been trying to do things my own way. I've been always kind of seeing that it's different. Even in school, I used to fight a lot because people used to pick on me and I would not let them pick on me. So I would just fight all the freaking time. I got expelled multiple times. I even kicked somebody's teeth out. So I was a fighter, right? I was a fighter. And that's basically who I am as a person in terms of like not listening and not being, not conforming to the status quo. And that's probably you that are listening right now. That you're probably identifying yourself with me in the sense that you don't listen, you don't take a no for an answer, you don't listen to people, and you want your things done your own way, and you just keep pushing until you get it. That was me, right? And sometimes you don't get it your own way, and that's okay too, I guess. But it's one of those things that I always kept persevering. So I throughout college and throughout all those years, right, in 2012, 2011, when I started doing this social media, I started on YouTube, and you can check out the videos even to this day, right? The channels are called Elation Football, Elation Fitness, and you can also check out the channel that's called It's JPTV. So those channels, right, have videos of me like complete goofball. I had no idea what I was doing. I don't even have a camera. I was using a computer camera that was like very sucky. It was just bad, right? And I didn't have a tripod to go train and put the camera on the field while I was training soccer. I would just take shoe boxes that I had, stack them up, and then put the camera on top. That was my tripod. And I remember like people were watching me like as I went into the field with a bunch of book bags with a bunch of like shoe boxes, and you will just watch me thinking like, what the heck is this guy doing? And then I would just start training and practicing my free kicks in there. And obviously the videos are, like I said, still online. You can go check them out on YouTube. And that's where I started, because I had this vision that, hey, I'm going to use this to actually make it happen. I'm going to use this to actually become a professional soccer player. Soccer was my obsession. And that's one of the things that you also need to take into account when it comes to business, that you need to become obsessive. There is no other way around it. Like the journey is hard AF. Like you're going to literally cry your eyes out. Like I've cried more times than I can count. I've punched walls. I've like broken things, and it's just like hard. So you gotta just be obsessive if you want to actually make it on anything, really. If you want to become, status quo, get it easier, that's cool too. But reality is the journey. If you want to make a huge impact and go from income to impact, like we say here, you have to be willing to be obsessive. So going back to that place, to that time where I was trying to figure things out. I was doing this YouTube thing. I was also posting pictures on Instagram, where Instagram had just started. I had no idea what it was. I was posting pictures on Facebook and trying to figure this out. Back then, I used to think that I was too late to start. because all these huge YouTubers has huge audiences, and I didn't have anything, and I was complaining. Like, it was just a very tough journey, and obviously didn't have even the money to even spend on ads. I didn't even know what ads were, and I didn't even know how anything of this online business world worked that we take for granted today. In terms of knowledge, like back then I had zero clue about anything, and it was a very tough spot. Like, all I wanted was to get more followers and get more views to get the contract, like to get in front of people, and then use that to become a pro. That was literally it. Then I graduated college in 2014, and I actually got the chance to move to the States, with a special program with a student visa, and that's how I moved, right? And then I started getting my master's here, is an MBA, and that's basically my quote unquote journey in terms of as a student. I remember though that in college I would literally sleep 4 hours on average. I've slept probably 4 hours, between 4 to 6 hours a day, for the last 6 years, and I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating on that. I would just catch up on weekends. And the reason why I say that is because now it's just business, right? I'm just working as hard as I can for the goal and things that I want. But back then, it was because at the mornings, like, I woke up 7, 8 a.m., we'll go to work, go to my internship, and obviously didn't even pay, which was horrible. And we'll go there, then go to class, which I absolutely hated every second of it. The reason why I studied electromechanical engineer, it was because it was the one that I least disliked. That's the reason why. It wasn't because I liked it. It was because it was the one that I least disliked. It was the lesser of two evils, or the lesser of like 20 evils. And I'm good at math, so I'm like, all right, I'm good at math, I'm good at numbers, so I guess this will be engineering, right? So that's kind of how it went. And I went to college classes until like 4 p.m. Then from there, I would go train on the field, play soccer from 5 or 6 until 8. Then I would go at 8, I will literally go from the field. I didn't even take a shower. Go from the field, just put some pants on, just joggers or things like that. Throw on a new shirt, like try to clean myself as much as I can in the bathroom, and then just go straight up to class. In the field, like when you see like the soccer field, if you check out the YouTube channel, you will see the fields are complete dirt. Like, not dirt in terms of trash, but dirt in terms of dirt. Like, there's rocks, there's dirt. Like, if you fell there, you will literally just cut yourself. And when I fell there, I would go to classes like all bruised up, and that's how I did it. And then I would be in class until 10, and then from 10 to 12, I would go and actually train at the gym. So because I knew that I was become better and stronger at the gym, I will also become a better player. So it was, like I said, I was obsession. It was my obsession, which is why I sacrificed the relationship I had because of that. So I invested a ton of time into this. And then from there, at 12 midnight, I would go back home. And then that's when I would study. And I would study until like 3 a.m. because obviously engineering is not easy at all. And then again, repeated the same thing the next day. So that was my life for the entire, since 2011, 2012, up until I graduated, which was 2014, right? And on top of that, I took more classes than I should in college because I wanted to get off of college as fast as possible. So I graduated about 1 year earlier than I should. I graduated with a promotion of 2009. I'm a promotion of 2010. I graduated earlier than I should have because of that, because I wanted to become a professional soccer player as fast as I can. And I knew that the younger I was, the higher the chances. So basically, that was my train of thought and how I did things. Then, obviously, I came here to the States with the opportunity, got my master's degree, and then in 2016, I was struggling. Like, I would remember training literally even on winter outside here in the States, right, in the United States, and it was hard. Gratefully, I was able to find a team. They accepted me. I did trials for them. They accepted me. The team is called FC Indiana. I absolutely love the guys, and it was an amazing time. I improved as a player more than I could have wanted and could have imagined, and I just was able to play against professional teams because the FC Indiana is a semi-pro team, but we traveled all around the United States, and that's basically how I went. And then in 2016, I remember that I was tired. I was tired of failing. I was tired of doing all this thing by myself. I would literally, again, here in the States, it will be exactly the same scenario that I was in DR, right? I will get up, go to class up until, I don't know, like 3 or 2. Then from 3 at 6 or 8 p.m., I will literally just study, do my homework, and also study social media. And then from there, I will go train with the team 3 hours, then come back. I will be dead. Try to do more homework, try to study a little bit more, and then repeat it all over again the next day. I've been literally working. I quote unquote have not enjoyed my 20s. As most people like will call it, right? Most people say, "Oh, college is super awesome, super fun, like you party," but like that has not been me, and I don't regret it either. By the way, like I don't want to throw a pity party here, but I don't regret it. It's been a journey, and it was all because I was obsessed with achieving a goal. And then in 2016, right, I was tired, like I said. And what I did was I wanted to grow my Instagram, right? I saw that Instagram was the place that I needed to be. And even to this day, if you're hearing this, that is the place that you need to be. The opportunity is even bigger now because now it's become kind of like mainstream. But back then I was like, right, I need to be here. And I was tired of doing myself. I was tired of figuring it out. My cousin, he's an artist, right? He draws. He started growing his page really, really quickly. He didn't really give me any advice in terms of growing it. But I was like, if he was able to do it, I want to do it too. And basically what I did was try to find, and I'm like, all right, just like the same way I'm taking classes in college, there has to be a way that I can take classes online for this thing. So I tried to start following a bunch of people, and I found a company called Founder, right? Nathan Champ. I love the guy. Met him in Fun Hiking Live that last year. And what I did was literally take a $2,000 loan to buy his program, buy his course. It was, again, as an engineer in the Dominican Republic when I worked there, it was $300 to $400 a month that I made. The course cost $2,000, $2,000. That was a humongous investment, but I knew that if I did that, I would have success. Like, I just needed the path. Like, I was tired of doing it myself. So basically, that's what I did. I pulled the trigger. I remember to this day, it was like the end of February 2016 that I pulled the trigger and bought the program, right? And I started having success very quickly. I went through the program, like, ate it up. And then basically what the program taught at the time was follow, unfollow. And I started doing that. I started growing with an app called Crowdfire, and I grew. It got to 10,000 followers very quickly. My audience there on the soccer page that I had, and it was growing. It was going great. So what I did was then something bad happened. Like the algorithm changed on Instagram. It changed completely. Crowdfire was banned, and no longer I could use the app. And that was the moment that I was like, crap. I'm $2,000 down. I have no idea what I'm going to do. Like, I need to pay this money back. And Instagram just banned the only source of little results that I was having. And like my dreams felt like they were being crushed. Right. So at the same time, I started researching more online, hearing Russell Brunson, hearing Mitchell Harper, which funny enough, I actually talked to him the other day, and I closed him out the time without even trying, which is super fun. But I started hearing Russell Brunson, Mitchell Harper, and then I took their general traditional business direct response online marketing strategies and knowledge and applied it to Instagram. And guess what? They worked tremendously, really, really well. I started applying modeling success, the KLTB process for sales. I started applying market research and all these different little things that you not necessarily you do that for the normal business world, but you don't necessarily do it them or see them on Instagram. That's what I did. And things took off extremely quickly than I ever thought of possible. So quick that like I got to 20, 30, 40,000 followers very extremely quick. And that's when I actually got the chance to become a pro. And it was that moment I still remember to this day, and I get chills talking about it. But it was probably one of the hardest moments of my life, because it was the moment that I said no. And I said no to my dream. I've been working towards this dream for over 10 years. 10 years. And I have it right there in front of me, in my hand. And the reason that what happened was an agency contacted me that they wanted to use me as a case study. Their whole business model is taking players and putting them in front of professional teams, and they get paid for that. I don't know if they get paid out of the commission from the contract or they get paid by the actual players, but the point is that they take players, talent, and they sign them, like they have contact with a ton of teams, and that was the deal, right? And I literally saw my dream become a reality in front of my eyes, and I said no. It was, even to this day, I sometimes still think about that moment. because that was the moment, the pivoting moment that transformed everything for me. And the reason why I did that, it was because a few months earlier, I broke my left toe of my foot and playing, soccer. And I obviously couldn't train, so I used the time I was dedicating to that to actually focus on the business, on Instagram, and that's when it took off. It grew, and because it grew, I got the contract. They saw my videos online. They saw my videos on Galatian football on YouTube. They thought it was a good fit, and I literally saw my moment. And I thought about all the moments that I have, like everybody told me no. I thought of every single moment, like my parents, my family, my friends, even my teammates, like playing soccer. They say you're not good enough. You're never gonna make it. And I thought of every single time I got injured. I've broken my left ankle, like I shared with you today. My right ankle, my knee got busted, my lower back. There was one time that I even kicked my tooth, my front tooth. If you're watching this podcast, like my front tooth, they kicked them out like backwards. Glad they didn't kick them off of my mouth, but my front teeth are dead. They don't have any sensitivity because they got root canal or something like that. So I thought of every single moment that I have failed and I have cried and I have bled for this dream and for this moment. And I said no. And the reason why I said no, it wasn't because I didn't want to achieve the dream. It was because I saw a bigger opportunity going the other route. I was starting to taste success with Instagram, and I was like, I'm never going to become Ronaldo or Messi or make millions of dollars playing soccer, because one thing is it's being realistic and another thing just being stupid. I was not stupid. I realized I could work my butt off as hard as possible. I'm 24, 23 at the time. I'm obviously too late to the party. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to make to the point that I want to make it. And I also realized, because I traveled across the country playing soccer, playing against other professional teams, and I saw the life of a professional soccer player. It was it's like the sacrifices you have to make in order to make it are huge. You have to sacrifice your family, you have to sacrifice your diet, your sleep, all these different things, just for a little tiny taste of success in the soccer field, to actually get the contract and become a pro. And I wasn't willing to do it. It was that pivoting moment that I said, I did it. I made it to where I wanted to. I made my dream. I didn't quit. I proved everyone else wrong. And I proved it to myself that I was actually able to do it. But I don't want to. I get the trophy and I hand it right back. It was, I don't know if, it was very, very tough. But I'm glad I did, because just 2 years later after that moment, I had broken the $1 million in just 9 months. In the first 9 months of that year. So 2 years later, after that very moment, things exploded and blew up. So I'm gonna leave the second part of my story for the next episode, for another podcast. But right now, all I want you to know is, what do you think? Maybe share your own story with us. I would love to know, what do you think about the podcast? Do you agree with the decision that I took? Learned the soccer team with that. I want to know. Send us a message. Send us an email. Send me a message on Instagram. Comment on Facebook. Post it on the Facebook groups that we have on YouTube. It doesn't matter. I want to know, what do you think about this podcast. I want to know what you think about this episode. And also, what do you think I made the right choice? What would you have done in my situation? And then we're going to dive and talk about the actual business, quote-unquote, journey when I transitioned from being a soccer player to building a business, and why I did that. I'm going to dive a little bit more deep into specifically why I did that, my train of thought into the whole business side, and the transition I made from being a soccer player to actually becoming an online business owner and now having $1 million business. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Make sure the only thing I'm going to ask for you is just subscribe to the channel, to the podcast. I will really appreciate it. Also rate it. Just rate it. It can be 1 star, 5 star. It doesn't matter. I would just would love for you to rate it and just leave a comment. Just leave a review. Just give us some feedback. Give me some feedback. I want to know what you're thinking, what you think of this. Do you like it? Do you don't like it? What will you do differently? And thank you again for giving me your attention, giving me your time. is the most valuable asset. So I appreciate every single one of you. So catch you in the next episode where we actually talk about entire journey, entire online business journey, if you want to call it that. Thank you again for watching. We'll see you in the next one.